an evil robot babysitter, a 75-foot shark, and one of Spider-Man's biggest enemies. These are the sci-fi films you don't want to miss in 2023. One of the most anticipated movies of 2023 has got to be Dune Part 2, the follow-up sequel to 2021's massive adaptation of Frank Herbert's science fiction magnum opus. Both Dune and Dune Part 2 come to us from critically acclaimed director Denis Villeneuve, the man who's no stranger to sci-fi, having created incredible films like Arrival and Blade Runner 2049. Dune is the story of a royal family in the distant future that is exiled to the remote desert planet of Arrakis, which is home to everything from the enigmatic native Fremen, giant hostile sandworms, and a precious interstellar resource called spice. Because of the massive nature of the story from the original book, Villeneuve decided to break his film into two parts to do these characters justice. Dune Part 2 will continue where the last film left off, as audiences will follow Paul Atreides and Chani as they lead a revolution of the Fremen against the planetary occupation of the evil house Harkonnen. The lead role of Paul Atreides is played by Timothée Chalamet. The supporting cast of top-tier acting talent, including Zendaya, Rebecca Ferguson, Stellan Skarsgård, Josh Brolin, Dave Bautista, and Oscar Isaac in the first installment alone. In the upcoming sequel, the cast has gained even more star power. Joining the cast are Florence Pugh, Léa Seydoux, Christopher Walken, and Austin Butler, hot off his performance as Elvis Presley in Elvis. Following in the footsteps of sci-fi horror movies about artificial intelligence, such as Ex Machina and The Terminator, comes Gerard Johnstone's Megan. The story follows the creation of a seemingly perfect robotic doll that is supposed to serve as an ideal friend for kids and even a possible babysitter for parents. But soon, the evil android begins to take on a mind of its own. The most obvious comparison for Megan is to the other iconic horror franchise featuring an evil toy, Child's Play. There's even been some online beef between the Twitter accounts for both Chucky and Megan to hilarious effect.
You should probably run.
Megan is the brainchild of Akela Cooper and James Wan, the latter of which has become well known for his work on franchise fare such as Saw, The Conjuring, Fast and Furious, and Aquaman. Since it's produced by Blumhouse, the production company which has backed every Jordan Peele film to date, this movie brings back Allison Williams, one of the leads of Get Out. It also features the talent of Violet McGraw, Ronnie Cheng, Brian Jordan Alvarez, Jenna Davis, and Amy Donald as the main characters of this horror flick. Since its January release, Megan garnered a lot of attention with a viral dance scene and a staggering $30 million opening weekend at the box office. You won't want to miss this strong start to 2023's sci-fi roster. Hot off the heels of their recent holiday special, it's almost time to check back in with everyone's favorite team of multi-species interstellar heroes in this year's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. With James Gunn back at the helm of the series he created back in 2014, Marvel has allowed the Guardians to have one last hurrah with the finale to their trilogy. Part 3 of the series brings back all the main stars from previous appearances, including Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, Zoe Saldana as Gamora, Vin Diesel as Groot, Dave Bautista as Drax, Bradley Cooper as Rocket, Karen Gillan as Nebula, and many more. Taking place in the far reaches of space within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 continues where the past two films left off, following the ongoing story of this unlikely superhero team. It also requires some knowledge of movies outside the series to fully understand what's going on, since these characters were deeply affected by the events of both Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, and Thor Love and Thunder. For example, the original Gamora was killed by her adoptive father, Thanos, during the Infinity War and was later replaced by an early version of the character from a different timeline. Since Star-Lord and Gamora were developing a pretty serious romance, this new dynamic will surely play a part in the next installment. It's also important to know how much drama there was behind the scenes regarding James Gunn, since he was fired and subsequently rehired throughout production.
Autobots, roll out!
That's probably what at least one giant shape-shifting robot will say in the next edition of the massive Transformers franchise. It seems like only yesterday that audiences were watching Shia LaBeouf stumble around big CGI robots back in Michael Bay's 2007 Transformers adaptation. Now there are 6 mainline movies and 1 Bumblebee spinoff for fans to enjoy. Paramount Pictures is continuing the story with 2023's Transformers Rise of the Beasts, which will function as a sequel to Bumblebee since it takes place sometime in the 1990s with all new characters who have never been seen before. Transformers Rise of the Beasts is directed by Stephen Caple Jr. It stars Anthony Ramos, Dominique Fishback, Luna Lauren Velez, and Toby Wigwe as the human characters who discover the Transformer robots on an archaeological excavation. This film also features a star-studded voice cast for the various Transformers, both good and evil. The list includes Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime, Pete Davidson as Mirage, Sebastian Maniscalco as Wheeljack, Ron Perlman as Optimus Primal, and Michelle Yeoh as Airazor. Transformers Rise of the Beasts is directly inspired by the Beast Wars era of the original toy line and tie-in animated show, which establishes the existence of robots that transform themselves into the image of animals rather than cars. We said goodbye to the story of Katniss Everdeen and her climactic struggle against the oppressive government of the Capitol. Although there was a satisfying end to the series for many fans, it should come as no surprise that producers at Lionsgate wanted to bring the franchise back to life with some kind of prequel. These movies did make huge amounts of money at the box office after all. Well, that's exactly what's happening with 2023's The Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This film is a prequel directed by Francis Lawrence and based on a 2020 novel by original author Suzanne Collins. It takes place nearly 64 years before the events of the original The Hunger Games film by focusing on the early years of the Hunger Games event. Tom Blythe stars in the leading role of Coriolanus Snow. Other talented performers to appear in this prequel are Rachel Zegler as Lucy Gray Baird, Jason Schwartzman as Lucretius Flickerman, Peter Dinklage as Casca Highbottom, Viola Davis as Dr. Valimnia Gall, and Hunter Schafer as Tigress Snow.
I want every camera watching.
Another year, another highly anticipated Pixar movie. The legendary computer animation studio is back at it in 2023 with a movie that's been shrouded in more mystery than their usual projects. But Elemental got audiences excited for what's to come through a recent trailer that revealed some information. It's no secret that Pixar loves taking abstract ideas or concepts and anthropomorphizing them. They did this with emotions in Inside Out and souls in Soul, so it seems as though Elemental is continuing that trend by portraying various natural elements as people. Elemental takes place in Element City, a metropolis where all the elements of the world live together in harmony as conscious beings. It will feature groups of little elementals based on fire, water, and land as they interact in an urban environment. It sounds similar to Disney's 2016 film Zootopia, but with elements instead of animals. The story itself will focus on two elements, a fire woman named Ember and a water man named Wade, as they become unlikely friends despite their natural differences. Its official synopsis from Pixar itself goes into more detail about its on-screen dynamic. The description explains, "The story introduces Ember, a tough, quick-witted, and fiery young woman whose friendship with a fun, sappy, go-with-the-flow guy named Wade challenges her beliefs about the world they live in." Elemental is directed by Peter San and stars the voice acting talent of Amadou Ache and Leah Lewis as Wade and Ember respectively. As if the Meg wasn't big enough, it's gonna get even bigger with Meg 2: The Trench. This sequel follows up on 2018's over-the-top sci-fi action story about a 75-foot ancient megalodon hunting a group of scientists out in the Pacific Ocean. The sequel continues the story of rescue diver Jonas Taylor as he must once again deal with this pesky megalodon at even lower depths than before. While there's little information out there about the plot of Meg 2: The Trench, it's safe to assume that the plot involves both another megalodon and possibly even a trench. The Meg was a surprise box office hit back in 2018, making over $500 million worldwide off a budget of only $130 million despite a generally negative critical reception. The first film only managed to snag a 46% score on Rotten Tomatoes from critics and an even lower 42% score from audiences, and yet somehow it did well enough to warrant a sequel. Regarding the choice to make another The Meg, Jason Statham himself explained the reasoning during an interview with Entertainment Weekly during the first movie's press tour, saying, "I think it's like anything else in this day and age. If it makes money, there's obviously an appetite to make more money. And if it doesn't do well, they'll soon sweep it under the carpet, but that's the way Hollywood works." Yet another superhero movie on this list is DC's upcoming Blue Beetle movie, which will bring the iconic techie character to the big screen for the first time. For those who don't know a lot about the character, here's a quick crash course on everything you'll need to know. Blue Beetle is a superhero, whose real name is Jaime Reyes, who gains power after a blue alien scarab attaches itself to his spine. Because of this event, he can form a protective exoskeleton around his body at will, which easily allows him to fight crime. Basically, he's DC's answer to Spider-Man.
Hi? Do I know you?
Blue Beetle will be directed by Angel Manuel Soto and features a mainly Latino cast. The actors include Xolo Maridueña, Bruna Marquezine, George Lopez, Melissa Escobedo, Adriana Barraza, and Damien Alcazar, to name a few. In fact, this is the first film within the DC Extended Universe to have a Latino lead character at all, which is a big milestone for the franchise. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Xolo Maridueña discussed how essential the Latino background of the character and his family was to the history of Blue Beetle, saying, "With this character, he lives with his family and there's no way to hide who he is. Right from the very first moment he gets his powers, his family knows. That's different." Would it surprise you to learn that even more superhero movies are coming out in 2023? Of course not. There are so many of them that it would be bizarre if there weren't at least 4 per year to watch. That being said, the upcoming Kraven the Hunter adaptation differs in many ways from the other sci-fi superhero flicks on this list. Kraven the Hunter, directed by J.C. Shander, is a collaboration between Columbia Pictures, Sony, and Marvel to continue Sony's separate cinematic universe of movies like The Amazing Spider-Man, Venom, and Morbius. It will star Aaron Taylor Johnson as the larger-than-life character of Kraven the Hunter, a dastardly big game hunter who has often been a dangerous enemy for Spider-Man throughout the comics. During an interview with comicbook.com, Johnson went into detail about what kind of man Kraven will be in his solo film, explaining, "This is a character that was built ages ago, and it's in a new time and era. But yeah, is he going to be the hunter that we all want to see? Yeah, absolutely."